such an honor to be with you this afternoon and at a critically important moment in our country's history, but really all over the world. There is a scholar, her name is Anne Applebaum. She wrote a book called Autocracy, Inc. And what she documents is that not only is, our own government in the United States pushing past constitutional requirements, pushing past laws, demonizing minorities, demonizing immigrants. Not only is that happening here, but it's happening in a lot of countries. It's happening, certainly we know that it recently got pushed back in Hungary, but we know that it's happening in India. We know that it's happening in Argentina. We know that it was happening in Brazil, and then they got rid of Bolsonaro. But what we look around is that there is an international wave of intolerance, and friends, it is absolutely connected to an international wave of grift and corruption. Grift and corruption. You show me a leader who says, oh, this minority is bad, these immigrants are bad, these people are bad, women shouldn't have any rights. You show me a leader who says and does that, and I'll show you a leader who's saying, who wants to pay them? Really, this is the way they operate. It's not, the intolerance we see in our own country is not disconnected from the $400 million plane, World Liberty Financial, crypto, currency scams, golf courses in various countries. And don't think that Trump does not like Muslims. Some of y'all think Trump only doesn't like Muslims. He likes them just fine if they're very, very, very rich. If you can build a Trump Tower in Dubai, all good. And if you look at any of these dictators around the world, they operate the exact same way. Yes. They operate the exact same way. So I have a lot of dear friends of mine, people who I'm very close to, who they were either born in India or their parents were. And so because they have approached me while I was in Congress, I spent many years trying to make sure that Modi never entered the United States. And the reason I did it is because this friend of mine, and I'll tell you, his name was Zahir John Muhammad, he's like a brother to me. He said to me, Keith, let me tell you something, man. My grandfather was born in Gujarat, India. But my father was born in Tanzania. And I never set foot in India. I can speak Gujarati, but I don't know Gujarati. So I'm going on a pilgrimage. I'm going back home to the motherland. And I identified with where he was coming from. Because I myself am of African ancestry, but until I was an adult, I'd never been there. And so he goes back there, and he says, I'd like to rent an apartment. They said, what is your name? Zahir John Muhammad. They said, oh, we just rented that apartment. And then he said, oh, but this one says it's available. And then they say, but we only rent to vegetarians. He says, great, because I'm a vegetarian. Oh, looks like you don't have one. We can't do anything for you. Sorry, we can't. And so he says, Keith, that might be the first time I ever encountered discrimination. Because he said I'm a doctor's kid. I grew up in the suburbs of Sacramento, middle class. I never really ran into it like face to face. He said, but that wasn't the end of it. Right. He said, I have friends who are both Hindu and Muslim, and we're all tight. And we were riding around, and one day we ran into a place where a civil disturbance was going on. Civil disturbance, I'm telling you, it's around 2000, And so hoodlums stopped our car and they said, "Are there any Muslims in that car?" And my friends, they said, "Not around here." And they drove off. They said, "If they had not done that, I might not be here to talk to you right now."
Wow.
And that is when I first heard about the Gujarat riots. And that is when I first heard about Narendra Modi and who he was. And that's when I first heard about what the RSS is. And it really kind of blew my mind. Because I'm a little bit ashamed to admit, we all got to face the things that we're not great at, right? That I kind of had this America-centric idea of racism and hate. I did. I was like, well, you know, South Africa, the United States, the Nazis, these are the societies where this race hate is prevalent. And then I learned about the philosophy that was floating around in India and gaining currency among some powerful people. And I really began to understand that race hate knows no country, knows no religion, and we have all got to stand united against it. It's not the property of any country. My friends are here will say by people who are Hindu. I got a lot of good friends of mine who are white or European ancestry. It's not one color, one culture. It really is a universal thing that we've got to stand united against. It's not one ethnic group or against another. It is the people who believe in liberty and justice for all, people who believe in human dignity against the people who do not. And that's what we have to do. And I can tell you, as a person of African background, you know, I can trace my family roots in this land to 1742. Wow. I won't belabor the point, but I have an ancestor who was kidnapped off the corner of what is now the land of Togo. And we know she was from the Ibe tribe because we know that that was the name they called her, but we don't know much more than that. We do know that she was shipped to New Orleans, and she was brought by a man named Claude Thomas Dwyer. And she was brought up to Natchitoches, Louisiana, where she had 10 children by him. Until a Catholic priest said, "You got that woman and you're getting babies by her, and you're not married to her because you can't marry her because she's black. And you're in sin, and if you don't get her out, we're going to declare her to be a public concubine, and we're going to excommunicate you." This is all in the records. And 10 generations later, I'm standing in front of you. So I'm telling you that what my family history tells me is that it is incumbent upon all of us to come together and stand against this race hate issue. And it's not just in race, by the way. If you were to get a scientist, we have a lot of doctors in the room, right? There are genes for melanin, but all kinds of people got melanin. People in Africa got melanin, people in Asia got melanin, people in South India got a lot of melanin, just as much as some people in Africa. There's a gene for wide noses. You go to people in Southern Asia, like in Vietnam, that just means you live near a tropical area. It means that you get, I mean, there are all these, but there is no such thing as a gene that says race. There are markers for different physical attributes, but a scientist will tell you that race is a political concept. And it is designed. And so in Nazi Germany, they said the Jews were a certain race. And the truth is, genetically, they're probably no different from any other German. And then they said that we're always coming up with these ways to divide ourselves. And let me just tell you this. You can divide human beings infinitely. If what your goal is division, there's no stopping the division. You can say, oh, we are going to be racist against people who are, I don't know, tall. Well, except the ones who are tall and have melanin. Except the ones who are tall, melanin, and have curly hair. Except the ones tall, melanin, and have, I mean, we can keep dividing and dividing. as I said, my ancestry is African American, and they will divide you between North and South, dark and light. Oh, they'll just figure out one religion or another. It's infinite. And so even within a country, they figure out, I don't like this one, they don't like that one. They're from this tribe, they're from that tribe. And even if you are the same tribe, they'll say, well, you're from this clan, I'm from that clan. So if division is your thing, you can divide forever and a day. It's no trick to divide people, but what's really, really, really the right thing to do is to unite people. Bringing people together is not hard to do, but if you're in a political environment where some people benefit from division, it's the most progressive thing you can do. How can we preserve who we are and reach out to others in terms of common humanity? As Trump is saying that the immigrants are eating the cats and the dogs, right? He said, am I making up stories on the president? Said it. Is he saying that immigrants are poisoning the blood? Said that too. The question is not really him. The question is us. The question is not really what he's going to do. The question is, what are we going to do? And our challenge is to reach out and find common ground. I think that is the challenge for us right now. To not, so if somebody says, we don't like you, our answer cannot be, well, we don't like you either. Our answer needs to be, you may not like me, but we like each other just fine and we're here to work together. I want to say to you, this is the challenge right now. You may think that we're doing interfaith connection right now is not quite enough. You may think that reaching out intercultural is not quite enough. It may feel a little bit not militant enough or not activist enough, but I'm telling you that it is. I'm telling you that building bridges of understanding right here, right now is a very important thing to do. And I'm going to tell you, I remember back right after 2000, we talked quite a lot about interfaith dialogue, and what do we talk about? Muslims, Christians, and Jews. That's what we talked about. Friends, we gotta start talking about Muslims, Christians, Jews, and Hindus.
Yes.
Because in the United States, the Hindu community is sizable and powerful, well-educated, and affluent. And people want to, and if we don't engage our neighbors on the basis of friendship, some bad person will try to engage them on the basis of division. And so I just offer that to you because I think it's a challenge before us. And I think it's not always that easy because some people will say, do you know what they did to my family? How can I forget that? Well, you know what the Quran says. Allah has the power to bring us together, and we might find that we're friends after all. This is in our Sunnah, it is in our Sirah, it is in our scripture. And we should look out for, we should build a team for that, to not only to build friendship, but also to deny the dividers and to turn them away. So let me wrap up by saying this. We are in an interesting moment in American history. Nobody in this room, and 99% of the people outside of this room, none of them, none, I mean none, have lived in the kind of America we live in now. What do I mean by that? Here's what I mean by that. I was born in 1963. When I was born, Martin Luther King received a Nobel Prize. And by the way, he was deeply inspired by civil rights and independence that was going on in India.
Yes.
I hope some of you all know that. And so he gave that great speech, and he also gave this speech that we all know about, the I Have a Dream speech. You've heard that one. We hear it every year. But that was the year I was born. He gave that speech. Also that year, 4 little girls were bombed in Birmingham, Alabama. But the next year, the 1964 Civil Rights Act was passed. which meant that if you're open to the public, you got to serve the whole public. You can't say you can't come in here because you're not the right color. The next year, 1965, was the Voting Rights Act was passed. That was in August. In October, guess what was passed? The immigration bill that said that people can immigrate on a non-racial basis. Before that, it was hard to get into America if you were not Northern European. If you were Southern European, Greek, or Italian, you were not white enough for these people. Going back to the idea of race being a political construct. And in fact, if you look at the United States Supreme Court decisions, there are cases, friends, on the adjudication of who is white. I'm not making this stuff up. There was a guy named, I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Thind, T-H-I-N-D. And he said, I am an Indian of Persian background, and I am Aryan, and even though I'm brown, I'm Aryan, so I should get the benefits and privileges of being white. And you know what the Supreme Court said? You don't look white enough to me. Nope. Reject. Happened. Look it up. Some of you guys are thinking Ellison's making up stuff. I'm not kidding. It really happened. United States Supreme Court case. And so that immigration bill of 1965 opened the door for people from Asia, Africa, Latin America. It was a civil rights bill. And if you have ever felt like, I don't know too many African Americans, I don't identify that closely with them. If you've ever thought that, you are directly a product of the civil rights movement. Because if you came here since 65, you came here because the civil rights movement kicked back on. And I only say that because some of you all are amazing organizers, amazing leaders, amazing people who have a tremendous talent to bring people together. And I'm about to start running it. And I just want to say, we are all in this boat together. We are all united in that we are all products of the civil rights movement to a certain extent. All of us. And then, of course, women's rights took a big step forward at the same time. Even senior citizens' rights. We even did economic things, like we improved things like college, first-time college, and Social Security, and Medicaid, Medicare. All these things improved during this time. There was the so-called war on poverty, which did, in fact, alleviate poverty. And so as I wrap up, I just want to say that Voting Rights Act, this Supreme Court, which Trump appointed, just destroyed it. Those women's rights improvements, this Supreme Court just took a bat and smashed it. All of these things that we have lived through, we've lived in an America of expanding rights. Even those of us with the gray hair, we've lived in an America where rights were expanding. And now we're living in an America where rights are retracting and regressing. But history doesn't have to repeat itself, friends. Me and you and me, and us together can stand up and fight and unite the people against this autocracy. And by holding this meeting that you're holding today, by coming together as you have come together today, you have moved the ball of human rights, you have moved the ball of human inclusion a little bit further. May Allah bless all of us and all of you. And thank you for the very beautiful